It's a pleasure to introduce our next speakers, Eva González-Sancho Bodero and Per Gunnar Eeg-Tverbakk. They're going to speak about the Oslo Biennial first edition. Eva González-Sancho Bodero is based in Oslo and has been a director and curator of several art institutions and initiatives, such as Musac Leon Spain 2013 and FRAC Bourgogne Dijon France, to mention a few. And she's curated numerous projects and exhibitions, usually involving the production of new work. Per Gunnar Eeg-Tverbakk is an artist and curator, the co-initiator and the director of KONST Oslo 2010-12, and co-curator of the 2004 Nordic Art Biennial Momentum Moss with Caroline Corbetta. From 2015 to 2017, González-Sancho Bodero and Eeg-Tverbakk collaborated as co-curators, developing and concluding Oslo Pilot, an experimental 2.5-year research project, which conceived the format for Oslo Biennial First Edition 2019 to 2024, which they will speak about now. Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for inviting us. And yeah, we will present the biennial. We have little time. Usually we talk for minimum 3 hours, but we do an exception here. So we have a very strict structure, and we hope to have your help in order to keep that time schedule. So we will start talking about the biennial in general terms, how it came into being, and how it's structured. And then at the end, we'll present some of the works that we actually have been doing, and still, some of these works are still going on.
Yeah, so this is a biennial founded by the city of Oslo. In 2013, the city of Oslo made this announcement looking for a curatorial team in order to think about the most suitable format for a biennial in public space. We responded to the announcement, Per Gunnar and I, and we have, with 2 different teams, and we have that they separated, and we have been teamed up. And instead of speculating on paper during 2 years about this format, we decided to go for an experimental based research project, which was Oslo Pilot. That was our response to the brief. Should you continue? I continue. It's the.
You can continue.
We came after during this pilot. We organized around 40 projects of very different nature, going from the, let's say, more conventional commission of works in public space to other type of works or seminars or more discursive program. And at the end of this pilot, and even during, we have been working about the issues related to time, because for us that was very important to define a new time frame in order to organize a biennial in public space, because obviously artists are not working in the same way, working in public space. Yeah, so we came with this model, which is a biennial, which is more a program of 5 years, an evolving 5 years program, which has been accepted by the city of Oslo. And that started last May. It consists of it's a structural program. It's a structural proposal, which is made mainly by 4 pillars. Maybe I will give you the.
So one main challenge or an aspect that I would like to emphasize is that the request or the commission from the city side was to have a biennial, and they wanted this biennial to take place in public space. So there we have like potentially 2 different kinds of spheres or ways of thinking within contemporary art. On the one hand side, the biennial, the event, which is has a very different kind of character and tempo than art in public space. So our proposal, which we will also show you the result of, was an attempt to merge, on the one hand side, the energy, the ambition, the currency of the biennial that somehow speaks of a specific kind of ambition for art, for contemporary art, and on the other side, art in public space. And these two kind of spheres, if you can somehow call it that, they rarely meet. And our attempt was somehow to keep both, to keep the ambition of the biennial, to have international and also, of course, local-based artists, and at the same time stretch or even think beyond the biennial event. And this is like one of the core ideas, that we somehow kept the biennial, but we went beyond it. We somehow cancelled the original idea of a biennial as a very specific and very short-lived event. And we allowed artists to work in different modes. And in order to do that, we have set up some criteria of how are the artists invited to work. So we invite. We do not commission. We never commission, meaning we never ask an artist to work with a specific theme or to give a specific site or a place to an artist. The artist decides where they want to work and how they want to work.
Yes, one of the things, and this is one of the reasons, going back to the time frame which has been defined, was the fact that, of course, the artists invited, they are working in this very highly mutable context, which is public space, where we are working with something which is very different from an exhibition room, which is contingency. So how the artists could also work with this contingency, and we need it to set another time. Also, we are not working, as we are indicating it here, we know that we are not addressing the projects to a constituted audience. Instead, we are working with passers-by, or we are addressing what we are doing to passers-by. So we need it, and this, of course, is not something that we believe you could do in 5-6 months, which is more generally the length of a biennial.
Yeah. So we also allow the artists to enter in to allow them to work in very different ways. So we never think of the public space as like a kind of alternative exhibition space, meaning a space that is controlled by the art institutions and that are somehow playing with the rules of art institutions. No, we somehow accept the fact that public space is a space where you have different interests, and there is no way we can control it. We don't own the public space. If we did, it was not a public space. So the point is that public space is a contested space, and it's always a space of potential conflict, but it's also a place where people meet, where you can have different kind of interests brought together, and sometimes to negotiate between different interests. But then again, it happens, the fact is that we need to accept the contingency. We need to accept the fact that we don't own this public space.
Maybe just to add that, of course, for us, public space is not exclusively the physical public space or the city, but that it is, of course, public sphere. There are projects that we are preparing, for instance. We're working on the establishment of a radio production unit, for instance, in Oslo. This is part of the platforms that the artists could use. The biennial, Oslo Biennalen first edition 2018-2024 is organized around 4 main pillars. A pillar dedicated to artistic production. We are very much interested in the making of art in public space, how a biennial could be the institution that is backing, distributing, and organizing a public outreach program of different projects in public space. A second pillar is the one that we have named Addressing the Myriad. How can we think of a public outreach program in another way when working with public space? A third one is the new institutional ecologies. How can we work with the other, with a big capital O, from the biennial? And a fourth one is a collection for the passerby. How can we think also the purchasing of art in public space? So somehow the biennial deals very much with this very long chain of artistic production that could start from the genesis, the idea, till the possibility of entering into a collection.
So just to add that these pillars, they are not a theme. They actually, as Eva said, they reflect the way we work. So it's almost like a method for how we deal with both artists, other institutions, and of course audiences. So it's almost as if the biennial has a structure that somehow has replaced a traditional theme of a biennial, because we don't believe in themes. And especially when you move out in public space, you can't thematize public space. So instead of having an overall theme, we actually emphasize the structure and the way we allow artists and audience to get to meet different kind of artworks. And we will now show you some of the works that we have been doing. We launched the biennial in May, 25th of May. Then the biennial somehow opened, and we launched a series of works. Some of these works will end now, some are continuous and it will continue for a long time, and other works, new works, will occur now when the biennial opens its second somehow set of work on the 18th of October. So the biennial then consists of works that are new, works that are ongoing, and works that somehow at some point are fulfilled.
So we will start with this work by Meta Evderson, Time Has Fallen Asleep in the Afternoon Sunshine, a library of living books, in reference to the Ray's book Fahrenheit. Probably you know. Artist Meta Evderson started in 2010 with this project, which consists of a living library, so people that have memorized entire books. The biennial is hosting the library of these 80 books till today. 35 are active so far in the world, in different cities. And we have a space, a home for this library in the building. The biennial is located in Oslo, in the center of Oslo, where you can go and book a book. So book a person who is going to tell you the book that the person knows by heart. It's quite a fascinating experience. So this is, for instance, a 5 years project.
Yeah. Maybe we should add also that our headquarter, the biennial's headquarter, also contains approximately 60 studios for artists. So we are somehow surrounded by artistic production. And this was a very important factor when we were looking for a headquarter, that we wanted to have a building that could host art production. So some of these studios we are in control of, meaning that we invite artists to work for the biennial, and we give them at the same time a studio, and we give them research facilities. This connects to this first pillar, art production within a locality. But in addition, there are also city-owned studios in the building. So these studios are rented out on a subsidized lease for Oslo-based artists, or artists that actually are living or spending time in Oslo. And we don't control them, of course. This is something that is decided upon by a specific scheme. So we actually, our everyday life is meeting with artists, surrounded by artists, and artistic production.
For us, that was very important, that the biennial could be also, could participate in the dynamics of a city. So it is not arriving and taking off 2 years or 3 years later, but how to, to participate in the dynamics of this art scene, how a biennial can contribute to that. And how to think, therefore, another type, another production frame for a biennial. This is another project. This one lasts for 2 hours. This is a living sculpture by Carole Duyard. 18 people, the viewers, looking without moving for 2 hours at different locations, different points in the city. This performance has been already shown in 22 times in 11 different locations, and we'll come back now in October again in other locations. We were from the Biennale very much interested also in going back and pay attention to all these immaterial artworks, not only, but we wanted to support.
Yeah. I just want to add that this image shows the viewers, which is this group of people on the left-hand side. And on the right-hand side, there is another group of people that suddenly become aware of the first group of people. So this second group of people are tourists that are there to look at the Nobel Peace Center in Oslo. And then suddenly they notice that there is a group of people standing still, just staring in the other direction. So this performance constantly creates these meetings, singular meetings or meeting with other people in public space. And it somehow manifests the kind of complexity of public space and the tension, because this is a situation that is both fragile and potentially also threatening.
Yeah. Sometimes there are people that join the group.
Yeah, that also happens now, people joining in. Yeah.
Yes, yeah. They want to look at what is happening also. And we wanted to look at these immaterial works also because when you take a look on all the works that are in the cities or are part of the collections, and then you think back in time, who were the artists intervening in public space, the surrealist, Dadaist, what has happened with these more immaterial proposals also?
Yeah, this is a work by Icelandic/German artist Linur Hallsson. It's a text-based work that takes place in 7 different locations. And they consist of text. They are kind of fragments of text that somehow reflects Oslo as a city, and each of the work has a subtitle. And they deal about the list of works. There are the mayor of Oslo, immigrants in Oslo, the king of Norway. They all have headlines and they are talking about this theme from different perspectives. And there are always 3 languages present. So these languages reflect Oslo as a city. So they are the most used languages in Oslo. And they create this kind of fragmented and also absurd kind of story that is not connected. And it also potentially reflects the fact that a city like Oslo, and of course that goes also for Swedish cities, are cities where you have coexisting languages that not necessarily refer or you can't understand each other. So it's almost like a fragmented presentation of the reality of Oslo, of contemporary Oslo. And these works were all installed at the same time, but they will have different kind of lifespans. So some of the works will just go on, and at some time they will be covered by graffiti or the wind and rain will take them away, while others potentially will be removed because of contractual agreements. So there is no fixed ending of these works. They will at some point be somehow absorbed by the city they're actually commenting on.
Maybe just to add, to give the context also, that talking about these languages, Oslo is a city with around 30% of people coming from abroad, and this is also the city, as you probably know, which is growing the fastest in the capital, so in Europe. So for us, it's a very exciting moment also to think of a project in public space.
Okay. Yeah, this is a work by the French artist Julien Bismuth, and it's a performative work, somehow as Eva already pointed out, we have quite a lot of performative and ephemeral works in the biennial. And this is an ongoing work that will, every year, it will somehow add a new episode or a new section. And it consists of text, fragmented text, that in the end will create a full story. So 5 people have learned a text that they perform in different situations in the city. They can perform it to the nearby person at the tram, they can do it in the phone, they can be at a cafe. So it's almost like a poem or a kind of poetic story that will unfold over years. And the title of the work, Nothing is Big, Nothing is Small, it's inspired by a diary from Edvard Munch, in fact. So it's a work that also connects to the history of Oslo.
This is a work coming back also in October, so a little bit later on this month. This is a work by Jan Freuchen.
This is it's a collaboration between one artist, one architect, and one writer. And it's called Oslo Collected Works, OSV, meaning etc. in English. I don't know what the Swedish was. Is there also OSV in Swedish as well? Okay, I assume that. Yeah. So it's a kind of a meta work that operates on different levels. It is actually a sculpture pavilion made like a kind of modernistic contemporary structure, placed in a very untypical place for a sculpture pavilion. It's somehow in a wasteland outside the center of Oslo, but it's also the place in Oslo where there is a lot of building going on. So buildings are coming up and buildings are brought down. So the building to the right that you see is going to be demolished. It's actually a very important building. It was the first high-rise building in Oslo. And now it's doomed. It's going down. And so this is an era that is in constant change. And in this kind of weird grass field, almost like a no man's land, this sculpture pavilion appears. And it consists of sculptures that are found in different collections and brought together. And each of these sculptures have their own history connecting to the city. So they carry individual stories. But at the same time, they're kind of very easily accessible. In the first selection of works, there are 5 animals presented. And in addition to the actual physical sculpture pavilion, the artist has also written, or they made a pamphlet. We even have it here. You can have it afterwards, which is almost like a dwelling around the concept of a public art collection. What is a public art collection? So it's almost like a theoretically poetic or absurd story about the history of the art collection.
There is, we were mentioning that there is no proper theme, let's say, but there are some shared concerns, of course. Many of the works share this reflection on co-authorship, co-production. We have it in many, many cases. This is the case of Rose Hammer, which is a group, a collective persona, initiated by Dora Garcia. We invited the artist and who wanted to work on some pivotal moments of the history of Norway. And for doing so, she first invited Per Oskar Løy, who is an artist working very much also with the rereading of history. And then nowadays, I think there are 20. Yeah. So which is a quite difficult set in terms of production. And they are setting this series of theatrical pieces around very, as I was mentioning, pivotal moments in the history of Norway. Such it is the case for this national first episode that was happening in the, there was a reading of what has happened in the prison of Grini in Oslo.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Yeah. Because we don't have so much. This is, so we, talking about the production frame again, as I was mentioning before, we are working on the setting of both a radio production unit, but also a film production unit. And this is the first film which has been produced by Oslo Biennalen, which is going to be screened on October the 18th. This is a film by the Ecuadorian artist Javier Izquierdo, a film about the Norwegian, the novel Hunger, and more specifically about the Danish adaptation, the Danish film adaptation of the novel. So this is a film about a novel about a city, among other things. So it's a meta film. This is a 52 minutes film.
And this film will have its premiere on the 18th of October. So this film was made during this summer, and the artist took use of, as Eva said, the film equipment that we have purchased in order to make artists to make it possible for artists to work with new film production, because it's a very expensive format. And in Norway, I guess that's the same in Sweden. You have artists, I mean visual artists that work with film formats, but they're not video artists, and they're not like full-scale filmmakers. So they actually operate in between. So when they apply for the visual art committee, they are stopped because they ask for too much money. And when they apply for the Film Institute, they can't be recognized. So in order for that to be possible for them to make a film, we have established this unit.
Yeah. So we only have 4 minutes now. I will go faster just to say that again, in order to participate in the dynamics of an art scene, we were very much interested in thinking what could be the legacy that biennial is leaving behind once it would be finished. That could be the film production unit. And we are actually talking from the praxis. So we are actually doing it. It's not a theory. So Adrián Balseca, this is the Observatory of Progress. This is going to be shown.
This is a new work coming in October.
And this is a sound escape, sound work, which is going to be launched also in October.
Yeah, actually for the October launch, we have 3 works that from different perspectives address the terror attack that happened in Oslo in 2011. So, but they are very different, but they all somehow shows the consequences of this. And one consequence is, of course, the buildings that now are threatening to be demolished in Oslo. You know, there is a new governmental headquarter or square being built, and artists have somehow made works that reflects the history of these old buildings. And this is also a work that we will show. It's Jonas Dahlberg, an artist I guess many of you know. He made a film about the process of making the memorial. And as you know, they never happened. So this is more like the artist's own kind of reflection on this process. And it has a Norwegian premiere on the 18th. I know it has been shown in Sweden, but it has never been shown in Norway. So
we have the program here also, which is going to be presented during a seminar called When Memories are made, so how works can produce memory. Yeah. So you are welcome to come to visit us in October.
We also have some of the guides from the May launching. If you're interested, they are on the scene here. And for October the 18th, we produce now a much bigger publication that contains all the works that we have been producing. The existing one, the completed ones, and the new ones in October. And of course, you're all welcome to come to Oslo on the 18th of October. Thank you.
Stay for questions. Thank you for condensing 3 hours into this very manageable format. That was great. Do we have any questions from the audience? Yes, right.
I have one. Since you're not commissioning the works from the artists but invite them, how do you introduce them to Oslo in order for them to be able to find the places where they want to work?
Yeah, we offer them...
and how do you find them?
I answered the first one first. No, we invite artists to come to Oslo and to stay there for a long time. And we also have researchers and people that will help them to find information about whatever they want to do. And of course, we have an ongoing dialogue with the artists. And it also happens that the artists come, they stay there, they go back, they come back, and then they present their work, and then they rethink again, and they come back with a new proposal. So it's almost like an ongoing dialogue. And we have a contract that is made that takes this into account. So first we pay the artist to come up with a proposal, and then afterwards, if that proposal is possible to to produce, we will, of course, have a new contract actually producing the works.
Yeah, that was very important for us also to set the ethics of, because we are setting an institution actually. So this is the structural proposal also, how to do it and how to offer. This is very much a biennial for artists, and then of course for the public. But how to offer optimal conditions to work.
You want to answer? How do you find the artist?
How do I? Well,
I gave a difficult question to her.
Yeah, I know. But it is. I don't know. It's a constant research in the how do we wanna. Well, Per Gunnar and I become both from the side of production very much. First from the fine arts side, and then curatorial one. And of course, there are many things that we are interested in. Also, this relationship to time, the relationship to the construction of public space. When we invite artists, that has to do very much with this particular context and flexibility, which is the space of conflict.
Yeah. But also, I would like to add that if you look at the list of participants, you will see that there's a lot of Oslo-based artists. And we think that is very important, that you actually open up for local participation. So usually biennials tend to import a lot of foreign artists and facilitate them, and then they leave. But we are very much aware of the fact that involving local, in this case Oslo-based artists, also is an ethic, it's a politic that is somehow reflected by it. It's not just about practicalities and selection, it's an important factor. Yeah.
Thank you. We have another question.
I was also, again, going to that route, asking about the criteria behind selecting artists, because I guess one can argue that's already some thematics in place. But spending on that and linking to the process of the project of konstnär in relation to delegating agency to the city, to the free actors, civil society, is there anything beyond the invitation of artists that you can, or that you thought about implementing the structure of this 5-year biennial?
Yeah, we are very much aware of the importance of collaborating with institutions. So we have a lot of collaborations going on with local-based institutions and also art initiatives that are directly involved in the production and also sometimes in the programming of the work. So we just show you a few works, but many of the works are really complex when it comes to how they are produced and who produced it and how do they somehow invite audience to take part. So this kind of local connection is not just about selecting artists, it's also about involving the existing, institutional and also the civil society in Oslo.
This biennial with the 4 pillars is very much a biennial which aims at influencing cultural policy in terms of artistic production, in terms of public outreach, in terms of how to collaborate also, and how to participate in the dynamics of an art scene, and in terms of, we hope also, purchasing art in public space. We have in this guide, for instance, you can see the institutional partners. These are really institutional partners, so people we discussed with in terms of ideas or in terms of how to do that work. They are not financial partners.
Thank you. And then we have one last question.
These are wonderful examples of art in public space. I'd like to know, how does the city planning process of Oslo respond to this?
That's an interesting question, because we have been asked many times how are we responding to that. So the question has been made the other way around, and that we don't want to instrumentalize artists in that reflection of, it's not that we are not interested in urban planning, but we don't want to ask the artists to respond to that. so far, we are, of course, and we have the privilege also of being in the city of Oslo. So our colleagues are working in the urban planning, and we have information that we can use or not as important information to give to the artists if they want to work with. How do they react to that? For the moment, we are completely separate.
Even though we are 100% owned by the city, we so far have experienced no attempt to somehow instrumentalize or to. So we have an artistic autonomy that goes us for artists, but also us being the curators that is responsible for choosing the artist. So the city very much respects the fact that this is an autonomous structure. And in Norwegian, we say this is like a fast or like a snappy way of saying it. It can't be said in English, but in Norwegian we say that vi driver ikke med byutvikling, vi driver med byinnvikling. Meaning that we don't want to develop the city in terms of financial aspects. We want to create a project that somehow reflects the fact that the city is a very complex and many-faceted somehow structure.
Great. Thank you so much for this great presentation.